Hello, everyone. We're back with Invincible Season 3, Episode 4. Um, a lot of crazy stuff happened today, and we're going to have to break it down. And I'm lucky that I have two of my paisanos with me. I have Sam and Busy. Muchachos,
What's
stuff
up?
went down. Literally and figuratively in this episode. Um, we got Rex and Shrink Ray bonding and maybe seeing the progress of maturity with that fool. We've got um, Mark trying to investigate who the hell is spying on him, and again at odds with Cecil in a very reckless way. And you see him trying to make the best of the time and privileges he has with Eve, and he once again has to go save the world, but not our world, a different one. And just this poor dude's been on through the effing ringer. Um, Busy. How did you feel after watching episode 4 and seeing how packed it is, especially after the 3 episode premiere?
So I thought it was crazy, man, because it's like we got so much happening with the I guess the future storyline, and then we kind of dive into a whole separate side of the of things with Omni Man and Alan. So it just felt like more than one episode, which is cool, because of how limited you know how short the seasons are. We are given of course 8 episodes, but they're able to like just shove all the meat into the just one episode. Each episode just contains so much, and I think that's part of the reason why the show's so good, because there's so much material to work off of. But on top of that, it's like when you shove so much in one episode, it just constantly keeps your attention. And I don't know, I think this episode just did a really good job with bouncing us all over the place, with being excited not just about one side of the story, but also being excited about the main story, if that makes any sense.
Completely. I mean, I think there's no time wasted or fat left in the editing room in terms of storytelling, character progression, and themes being honed in and reiterated, in my opinion. But Sam, you see that there's what, four storylines going around the same time, and for my money, he's editing. He's like, there's no time wasted. Like when we're with Shrinkray and Rex, I'm invested. When we're with Nolan and Alan, I'm invested. When we get to see what poor Immortal have been going through in this timeline, it's I don't need a flashback. Just his performance is in it. And how did you take away after seeing all this stuff played out?
Yeah, I think that they're doing a really good job with balance. Like if you take Rex and Shrinking Ray, like she went through hell, man. Like she barely lived through that, and so she is very much so fundamentally different. But I think the thing that makes it so good is the fact that Rex is very much so different. He's gone through hell. He got his head blown off. He lost an arm, and at the same exact time, he is not who he was. And I think that the way that they're taking their time, like it's like the seeds that they planted from the first season, they're able to capitalize in letting them blossom naturally. So that it doesn't feel like there's any filler, doesn't feel like there's any wasted time. Even when you see like a random villain or a character, like it doesn't feel like waste time because it's been earned. It's been built up to make sure that it's something different. But the thing that I'll say is this is my favorite thing about this episode. And it's not just them being together. It's the fact that Mark goes through hell. He's got so much trauma, it's not even funny. But this is the first time that I've seen Mark truly have someone to cry under or vent to, or truly have somebody that just accepts what he's going through, understands it, and gives him exactly what he needs from a reciprocation standpoint. And it's like, I don't know too many superheroes that have that. In any incarnation, I don't know too many superheroes that really truly have. Like you could say Batman has Catwoman, but she's a criminal, right? So there's a block there. Yes, Lois Lane is always there for Superman, but she is not a Kryptonian. So she can't truly understand, right? And so it's like with Eve and Mark went through He went through something that he didn't even want to be a part of. And the way they set it up was, oh my gosh. And I'm just so surprised how they really truly handled it. And they balanced all the story threads perfectly. But I know we're going to get into, that picture we just saw and who that actually was and what the hell Mark had to go through, and how he came out of it. It's important.
Yeah. Before we dive into it, I just want to say that they're like honing in, because people will probably forget these bits, much like I did, be like, oh yeah, we got this in this 45-minute episode. We got this much stuff. But seeing again what you guys been saying about Shrink Ray, how she's lifting herself up and looking for a connection with someone who is in the superhero community, but seeing if they have a different perspective of stuff, of life, of saying, can we just pick out fruits for 1 second and not worried about who's gonna go save this mess, or are we gonna go get beer? When I was like, no, let's just do something that normal people have to put up with on a daily basis, that we haven't had the privilege / burden to be with. And I like that Rex, with his wittiness, is seeing that stuff. He's not ignoring it. He's seeing it, but in his way, pushing it and yet accepting it. And I love that we're getting that progression with him. Cecil dealing with Mark's hot head, which at points is valid, and then at points I'm like, dude, you're proving his point all this time. Like, please don't do that. Take a look at yourself a little bit, just for a second. And again, the two boys, the time travelers, if you will, pulling Mark in the middle of their second date and saying, we need your help, and almost saying him going, no,
right,
find somebody else. Like, I'm not gonna mess my second date with the love of my life. And be it the force of time or whatnot, pulling him in time, no pun intended. And you see how these two really need his help, and how in so many ways I love this. Yes, he's like, are you okay with it? Are you sure about your decision about putting us first? And I love that their egos are so, to an extent, well balanced, that even when it comes to taking time for themselves, there's like, is there responsibility that we have to take care of right now, or do we have that space for us?
Right.
And you see that when he sees the landscape of the rudder. You sense it when he's hearing the stories of what happened to this king who was once good but went down a dark path. And I don't know about you, Busy, but I for sure, and I told this to Sam, I was worried it's gonna be Oliver. I was worried that, like, oh my gosh, he's gonna have to meet the older version of his brother and like go, Moses Ramsey on his ass. And like, I was so worried about that, and it ended up being the guy who I think he respects, yet has a chip on his shoulder, because he has a chip on his shoulder about Invincible and his father and the legacy that the Graysons have with the superhero community and Earth community. And just the dynamic is just haunting, sad, and visceral. Absolutely effing visceral. Sam, you see that presented to us, what the two time travelers gave us. You see, for a quick second, an alternative Mark Grayson get his bag, which we flipped the F out for. How do you take in that the Immortal went down this dark path?
So first thing I want to address something is that this is one of the only shows that I could say it goes very dark, right? But some kind of way, no matter what episode, and it's not forced, it's just written well. They find some kind of way of making a joke or making it comedic, and the timing is punctual. Because I was like, we saw Mark and he just looked so beat down. Like, what the hell did he just go through? You would see something like that in Rick and Morty. You know what I mean? Like, Rick and Morty is good for those impromptu comedic numbers because it's written well. So it's like if normal superhero movies try to go and push some kind of like comedic thing like that in, it would come off really cringy and cheesy. This never happens in the show. But yet they find ways, in some way, having some kind of comedic number or snark or emotional beat that connects with us. And I think that's just perfect. Now, when Mark was going, I honestly thought it might have been Mark. And I was like, God, is he going to have to deal with his older self and what that actually means? But then I was like, okay, it's not Mark. So who the heck is it? And then when it ended up being Immortal, Immortal's reaction to seeing Mark was devastating. It was crippling because basically he was like, oh, I didn't know if you like, I never should have gotten this. You never should have trusted me with this. It's too much for me to handle. And I was like, Immortal, you've been alive longer than Mark. What are you saying? And it was just like seeing his emotional state and him basically wanting to die by any means necessary was gut-wrenching. And I think the thing that makes it so bad is that Mark has tried his best to not go down that path. He's even told Oliver, don't kill by any means necessary. And yet, look what he had to do in this episode. It was messed up, bro. I felt bad for Mark yet again. Him having to do this because nobody else could. And he didn't even want to go. Because remember, we were talking about in the episode, I was kind of like, man, Mark, man, every time you go and try to like turn it away, you're going to end up being forced to do it and course correct it. But when I thought about it from a human standpoint, if somebody asked me to leave my date that I don't know, from a universe I don't know, and yes, it sounds selfish, but like, why do I need those problems?
And it's not even just that, bro. His only interaction with them was them stealing the what was it? The
Declaration of Independence.
Oh yeah.
like the only interaction they had was that. It's like, I mean, he has no reason to believe that. Like these people were trying to give him the work, but they couldn't do anything. Right. So it's like, for all he knows, it's another trap, you know. Yeah. But like the only reason he wasn't worried was because, you know, they weren't doing anything when they were trying to kick his ass. Like they weren't fearful.
Yeah.
He had no reason to, you know, take their word for it. But again, to double down on the whole Immortal thing, like going into it, like I didn't know if it was going to be him. I honestly didn't even expect it to be anyone that we knew. But when they dove into it, and as soon as he turned, I was like, oh no, what are we doing? And I think they did a really good job with it. But one thing that they did got me really excited for is Immortal's a really cool character. And I really love, you know, the voice actor alone has made me really want to like his character. But the thing is, it's just, there's times where he's just a pain in the ass, you know, but to know that some shit has to go down in order for them to be as close as they were, you know, for Mark to be like, now you're in charge, for him to be like, oh, I'm giving you the keys, you know, to protect this world, you know. It was clearly something had to have gone right, you know. Mark trusts Immortal, so I'm really, really looking forward to seeing the kind of the dynamic between the two and seeing how their relationship does grow. Because so far we've just seen hostility going back and forth, and that's one thing I really, really am excited for due to this episode and just seeing how things were. I mean, obviously things were extremely depressing, but you know, I am rooting for some type of bonding between Immortal and Mark.
Yeah,
I think I agree with you. Where like I think now Mark might see him through a different light. You know, he just sees him as the veteran guy who has a chip on his shoulder the whole fucking time, and now he'd be like, "This dude has been through a lot." And I love
he was looking at him like an equal, and he's never been on that ground.
He told him, Mark, I was about to retire. I was literally on my way out of this whole superhero thing. And then you asked me to put on for this privilege, for this responsibility. And yeah, I believe his name is Ross Marquand, if I'm not mistaken, who voices the Immortal. He was in The Walking Dead. He was in Endgame, and I think he voices Charles Xavier in 97. But seeing how much humility he had from it, and when he was asking to kill him, he didn't address him as invincible. He kept saying Mark. He said, Mark, we were friends once. I'm asking you to do this for me, man. Like, pull me out of my misery. Like, I can't hold this anymore. And it's tragic how you see how this guy, he realizes I've gone a dark path. I want to stop this, but I can't do it myself. I can't stop myself. And he has that whole not ego, but almost thing of like, I can't do it myself. There's no honor among that with a king. Like, no, someone has to take this responsibility and get it out of me. And I think even the snippets of him saying, where were you? You know, I thought you and your whole family left. You were sick again. What happened to you? You're skinny and whatnot. And I did love the little tease of what could have been with Mark Grayson in this era, in this time period, if you will. But I think when Mark kept telling him, "Please don't make me do this," and he does it, how tired he is from doing it, and he just drops his knees, and the guys kept trying to say thank you. You saved a life. He's like, don't thank me for this. That's one of the most saddest thing when someone doesn't want to hear a thanks. He's like, I did it. This doesn't deserve a thank you. And him saying, yeah, he did bad stuff, but he also saved a lot of people. And I just love the dichotomy between the two young men. No, that's not enough. He went bad. Like, no, you fucking don't know anything. Just stop talking and take me home. Take me home. No pun intended, hit home for me. Him saying, just get me out of here. Like, I did what I had to do. Really, really nailed it. And I mean, to echo what Sam was saying about Eve, how, and we said it, the strength of them is that they liked each other's as individuals before any romantic sentiment might have kicked in. It might have kicked in right after, but they got along beforehand, and that distance, I think, is the backbone of the relationship, where it's just like we respected and liked each other from a distance, and now together, there's no stopping us. And once in a while, one of us might be down in the gutter, and that's okay, because one of us is going to be up there to help the other up. Like, again, I told Sam, I can't wait for the tables to flip, and Eve has to go through some stuff, and Mark has to be right there for her. And I'll be, I'll be fucking pissed if I'm like, dude, she was there for you the whole time. Don't you dare walk out on her, or like not give her the same time and courtesy for when she needs your support. Which then leads to her saying, no, the day's not over. You did what you had to do. We're going to go and do our Man of Steel, Superman sequence, holding hands, admitting to each other they love one another, even though they think it's corny. And, they go back to the club, they go back to the bed, and, bow chicka wow wow. But we get interrupted because there's a breakout going to go down with Alan and Nolan. And Sam busy. I don't know about y'all, but I got Lethal Weapon vibes. I got that is Donald Glover and Mel Gibson out the wazoo in that state. What did you guys think of hearing Seth Rogen and J.K. Simmons teaming up for almost half of an episode? Half of an episode, y'all. This is a post-credit scene, and it was half of the freaking episode.
I knew it was bound to happen. I think the one thing that threw me off was I think it was this episode where we got the narration. It was like a narration explaining what was going on, and I'm just like, I was so lost at first, and then I realized that we were only like maybe 30 minutes into the episode at that point, and that's when I was kind of caught off guard that we were getting like a 15-minute like portion just dedicated to what was going on with them, and it was just one of those things that I was just really excited to see. And again, Alan has been a character that I've really enjoyed. So it's and Seth Rogen just continues to surprise me. I will say that. So yeah, I don't know.
Sam?
Yeah, no, I find it funny that the narrator, anytime somebody goes, because I think that who was having a moment? I think might have been Alan. Alan was having like a moment, and then the narrator kind of panned away. And the same thing happened when Mark, for the first time, they panned away, and the narrator was like, "Oh, well, in another location." I just think that's genius humor. But even like the fact that the equivalent of the time that it takes, like they still match it up. It's just ridiculous because they went back eventually. But no, I think the interesting thing is they've built up Nolan and Alan's relationship really well, and ever since Nolan almost killed Mark, parts of his humanity have been coming back in different ways, and I think that through Alan, an alien he could care less about, a race he could care less about, and this guy, he's like, I know your son, I know you hate yourself, but I want to save you, and I think you are worth saving. And like that messed with him, because at a certain point, like even Alan realized, like, do you care about what happens to me? Like, oh, okay, yeah, this is gonna work. We're gonna break out, buddy. And like, I think the way that they set up that whole entire fight, not only was it bloody, not only was it gory, it was freaking insane. Because I really was like, is Alan not strong as I think he is? Or what is actually happening? And then, you had Battle Beast, you had Nolan getting his joint rocked, and it was all set up by Alan to break him out.
Yeah,
Literally, not
fire
just
to see Battle Beast
figuratively and emotionally. Like, he's trying to break him out of wanting to leave. Because at any given moment, Nolan could have fought, but he's condemned himself there. And I just thought it was so funny how Alan set him up. And Nolan realized it. But I think now that he's on board that he wants to live, that's where it's going to be really interesting. So I loved how they handled that.
Yeah, I think I love the line where he says, no Viltrumite would have done that for me. Like, he wouldn't have helped me. He wouldn't have gone out his way to get me out. And, like, I love that it took his son telling him, I would still have you after 500 years. I would still have you, Dad. Him getting that flashback to when Mark was a kid playing baseball and his experience doing time in the can with Alan and saying how, like, wow, people care about each other, like, beyond species, race, color, mustache, no mustache, one eyeball, no, two eyeball. Like, it's such a beautiful and, again, organic way to build up these connections. And I for sure could see this being rushed, cut, and edited out the wazoo in another show. Most definitely. And, like, to throw in also a wild card like Battle Beast too. I've hated since he kicked Mark's ass in season 1.
Bro, he
and see him back and
behind. Good.
And him being like, I want blood. He's like, you gonna give me Viltrumite blood? He's like, yeah, I got 2. I'll help you out. And then almost being, I'm not gonna say like titillated, but like when he sees the Viltrumite, he's like, finally. Oh, I've been practicing for this. Let's get it on. And the Viltrumites being almost, you can almost see them being like, huh, somebody really wants to fight us? And someone's willing to take a punch and return the punch to us? Especially after, dude, the combo of Alan and Nolan punching that Viltrumite and then just balloon popping head, and seeing that the other Viltrumite with Battle Beast still tangling in the space, and you're like, I wonder if any of this word is gonna go back to the Viltrumite Empire and be like, yo, some people can kick our asses, and we gotta be careful before they round up and get together beforehand and actually take the fight to us. So I really, really dug that. And again, some of the lines in this episode between what Immortal was saying with what Eve, what Nolan was taking out, and it's a balance of emotion and comedy of Alan being beat up. He's like, hey man, how you doing? You shaved your mustache? You got a new haircut? And beautiful writing. And again, what a bow tie of, you see Shrink Ray and Rex developing a relationship, and you see even Mark solidifying a relationship in one way or another. I just love that was poetic. For me, that's poetry in pop culture for me, y'all. But I think, I don't know if we want to wrap things up, but do we have any more thoughts on the episode or final stuff that we want to say and get out? Because thinking about it again, rewatching it, I'm like, this is still just as strong as the first 3. Different flavor, but I think still strong, in my opinion. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, I think for me that out of all the story threads, it's about the human interaction, like actually being human, like as in interaction, communication, love, and somebody just being there for you. I mean, I think every single one of these different storylines has someone there making a true attempt at an interaction and them being there for them. And I thought that was just really interesting that these characters are truly evolving. All of them, not just Mark, but every single character is evolving. And I think that this episode kind of cemented it, because now that that's been established, how much stronger they're going to be at the end of the day. Mark's absolutely going to be a lot stronger because now he has not only something to fight for, but he has backing. He has covering. With Nolan, he's got a will to live now, and also somebody that's going to push him. And even with, Rex and old girl, like, there's so many different threats. And I think even Mark and his thoughts with his team, when he sees like what Immortal had to go through, he may encourage Immortal more. He may encourage all of them more, because at the end of the day, what I love about Mark is what I love and hate about Mark is he takes responsibility. Sometimes he takes too much responsibility to his own detriment, but he does truly take responsibility. He's like, I did this. I put him at this way. Like, he was like, no. This is the future you that did this. Like, you don't know the concept, why you did it or whatever, but still, he still took the ownership. And that is the markings of a great hero. Regardless of how young he is, that's something that's going to carry him for a very long way. So I love that about all of them. But yeah, it was a really good episode. It was on par with the rest of them to me.
Busy?
No, yeah. I mean, again, they kept up the craziness, and I'm super impressed with them being able to continue that same like intensity, considering that episode 2 and 3, they were nuts, bro. Like, they were nuts. Episode 2, I think I was like screaming for 10 minutes straight because of how crazy it was. So the fact that episode 4 was able to get us as excited and still be able to tell like such a crazy story that was able to catch us off guard. I mean, I'm really impressed with season 3 as a whole so far. So I'm really looking forward to more.
Beautiful. Folks, that is our thoughts for episode 4 of season 3 of Invincible. We're at the halfway mark, and if this keeps the momentum going, I think this might be the best one thus far yet, dare I say. Busy, Sam, muchachos, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to hang out and talk Invincible with us. Busy, plug yourself. Where can people find you?
Over on TeamJVS, and then reactions with Ronan, and then over on my channel, Busy Brown.
Beautiful. You can find me at Ronan Unchained on YouTube and all the socials. Let's reach 1,000 subs, y'all. I'm almost there, because once that happens, another era is going to begin with Ronan Unchained. You got
Ronan
coverage.
After Dark.
Yeah. you got stuff with Invincible every week going on, and then you best believe that Daredevil, Born Again, Last of Us, Andor, Devil May Cry is on the horizon. So you might want to stick around with that, and tune in with TeamJVS, y'all. This year is going to be radioactive with the amount of stuff we got cooking. So please stay tuned, like the video, leave the comments down below, subscribe, and we'll see you, Space Cowboys.
Peace, y'all.